Are you ready? All right, we'll go ahead and call this meeting of the Sturgis City Council to order tonight, Monday, October 6th, 2025. The first item is the Pledge of Allegiance. Councilor Yacera, will you lead us tonight?
Yes. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And we have a couple of pastors here tonight. Outstanding. Pastor Ross.
Tag team.
Let's pray. Father, I thank you for our time together, Lord. Thank you for the cooler weather and the water you've given us, Lord. And Father, you say that our time on earth is limited, and so we're to ask you to establish the work that we do. And so I just pray that tonight you'd establish the work that these folks should do, and just please give them good wisdom. We thank you for that. In Jesus' name, amen.
Item 3 is approval of the agenda. Does anyone have an add or omission on the agenda? To motion approval of the agenda.
Motion to approve. Second.
We've got a first by Alex, a second by Jim. Those in favor of approval of the agenda indicate by stating yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no. All right, item 4 is announcements and praise. Councilor Thompson, you have a nice list?
I do have a nice list, thanks to Deb. And today is beginning the Sturgis Falls citywide cleanup. Anybody that has anything they'd like to do that. And Rick, am I correct that just leave it out on the curb, right? Yep, all right. I left something out this morning, and part of it was gone when I came out. So apparently it's a good chance for people to shop as well. But that's going on through the 10th, anyone that would like to participate. Also starting today, the Sturgis Public Library is hosting a Halloween costume swap. So costumes are being accepted through the 15th, and then following that, they can be picked up anytime from the 15th through the 31st. So if you want to get creative for Halloween, that's at the library. Thursday, October 9th, the Sturgis Chambers October Business Mixer will be held at the Brewberry Bistro. You can stop by anytime from 5 to 7. Neighbors and friends. That's this Thursday starting at 5 p.m. at Brewberry. Monday, August 13th, a week from today, Sturgis City offices and the Sturgis Public Library will be closed for Native Americans Day. Both Monday and Tuesday, garbage will be collected on Tuesday. That's 1 week from now. And then Friday the 17th will be the next season of history at high noon at the Sturgis Public Library. The program is What's in the Name for Wood Place and Besant Park Road, Stagecoaches and Trains by Nancy Davis. That's on Friday, October 17th. And Mr. Mayor, those are the things that I have at this point.
Great. Does any other councilors have anything to add to the announcements and praise tonight? About members of the audience, you have announcements or praise? All right, thank you. Item 5 is non-agenda matters that come before council. Any non-agenda item that a member of the council or a member of the audience wishes to address the council on, please come to the dais, state your name. We're going to try and hold that to 3 minutes if possible.
Mr. Mayor, after last week and the property tax that mill levy, I went to Robin Shrake, who's our treasurer, because I was not aware of the assessment freeze that's available for seniors. And so she forwarded this to me, and anyone that's listening or doesn't know about it, there are eligibility requirements. The program reduces the assessed value of the homeowner's property. The property is defined as a house, a garage, and the lot upon which it sits, or 1 acre, whichever is less. You can look in the freeze on assessments at the treasurer's office if you'd like to pick that up and get the information. Eligibility requirements: you must be 65 years of age or older, or disabled as defined by the Social Security Act. You must have owned the property or retained a life estate in the property. You have resided in the house for at least 200 days during the previous calendar year. There are income and property value limits applied. So if you have questions on that, Robin said that the information is available on the back of the property tax bill that you would have received, and there is a form to be filled out, and that has to be done you can't do it until after the first of the year, and then it has to be back at the treasurer's office by the 1st of April. And if you have, and by the way, the governor has, let's see, there's more, the limits, let me see if I've got that, because I thought, oh yes. There's increased income limits. The maximum household income to qualify the program was raised to $55,000 for single, $65,000 for multi-member homes. If your income is under those numbers, then you apply. The maximum eligible home value was increased to $500,000. And if you have questions on any of that, you can go to the treasurer's office and they'll give you all of that information. So that has to do with assessment freeze for the elderly.
Thank you, Councilor Thompson. That's a good statewide program. I think there's also some veteran exemptions that are available.
Yes.
Unsure of the qualifications, but I'm sure that the county assessor's office or treasurer can make sure that they help anyone that may qualify. Anybody have anything else for announcements and praise? Okay, we're going to continue on to department updates. 6.1 is our September 2025 sales tax report.
Yeah, good evening, Mayor, Council. We did get, normally we don't get this until for the second meeting of the month, but we did get the information here a couple days for September. If you're looking at the general fund, the 1% sales tax, in September, we made $414,649. That's just over 7% higher than we made in September of last year. To date, we're at $1,984,126, which is a little above 24 and also a little bit of 23. I think if you look at August and September, we had 380,000 last year, or last month, 414. Again, those were pretty good months compared to last year. I just think that's an indication that the rally was a pretty good rally. We had attendance up around 10%, and I think that reflects in the sales tax. Specifically, if you look at the next one for the triple, we're at 137,812. Last year we were at 125,000, so it's almost about 12,000 more than last year. So it's about just under 10% higher than last year. Again, looking at those 2 months of August and September, again, just an indication that we had a pretty good rally. Pending your questions.
Yeah, well, that's good news, Aaron. And that information's available in its full form on our meeting management iCompass site, linked through our main webpage if somebody wants to dig into the sales tax numbers. Sales tax is a significant part of our budget, and we like to see that our revenue predictions made as much as 18 months in advance can come true. Any questions? All right, continuing on. Under the mayor's report, we have a recreation area instructor, former gymnastics coach, by the way, for Sturgis Scoopers. A couple of EMTs or one EMT and some animal shelter volunteers, which are definitely welcome up there. Is there any questions on those three items?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor indicate by stating yes.
Yes.
Terry. Item 8 is a consent agenda. The consent agenda is considered as a whole, so there are 2 items on it tonight. Minutes from the September 29th special council meeting and consideration to use wooden barriers to close the back parking lot of the community center. Does anyone wish to remove one of those items and have it considered individually? Hearing no requests to remove anything from the consent agenda, those in favor of the consent agenda indicate by stating yes.
Yes.
Oh, wait a minute, we need a motion. I'm trying to go too quick tonight.
I'll make the motion.
I'll
All
second.
right. We got a first by Jim, a second by Ruth, to approve the consent agenda. Those in favor indicate by stating
Yes.
all right, the order is correct finally there. Item 9, approval of the claims. Is there any question on the claims? Looks like Rick's getting ready for winter. We're buying salt. Would it be reasonable to ask, I mean, we got quite a lot of expenses that are coming out of capital improvements. Can we kind of talk about why those are coming out of capital improvements at this point while some of the items are state revolving loans, funds, and some are federal grants or state grants?
Evening, Mayor. Most of those, the city ends up having to make those payments up front, and then once we make payments on those, whether they're the state SRF loans or whether they're the federal grants, especially the federal grants, we actually have to show that we've paid it and submit a copy of the written check, and then we get reimbursed after the fact. So a lot of those, whether they come out through some of it's capital improvement, some of it is coded through the enterprise fund under capital improvement, but all those payments generally get made up front, and then we get reimbursed for them after the fact, sometimes 30 to maybe 60 days after we've paid them.
Right, and in this case, it looks like everything's coded out of our primary capital improvement fund.
Right,
so-
and we did have a portion on the North Trunk line that was not SRF eligible, so when we got that SRF for that clean water loan, the only things eligible for it were the sanitary sewer. And that particular project, if you recall, we were granted right away both in front of Runnings and then down Silver Street. Those were private property, even though we had sewer mains in there, water mains. We got those dedicated as public right away. Part of our agreement in doing that was to rebuild those roads. So all of the curb and gutter, the concrete sidewalks, the asphalt, the water lines, things of that nature were not eligible as a part of that clean water SRF. So those were actually part of the capital improvement plan, the 5-year CIP. We had those amounts in there to cover that. And of course, water out of their reserves paid for the water part. The pavement and the curb and gutter and the sidewalks would come out of general fund, out of streets, capital improvement, and that's how they're coded.
Thank you, Rick. I just felt it was important to talk about those, about
Sure.
$340,000 worth of expenses, I think, in that.
Yeah, and I think total on that wasn't SRF, on that SRF that wasn't eligible was roughly $700 and some thousand that we knew was going to come out of either capital improvement or out of the water reserves.
Anybody else have any questions on the claims tonight? Someone willing to motion the claims?
I'll motion to approve.
Did I?
Mark at it first.
All right, we've got Alex as a first and Mark as a second. Those in favor of approval of the claims indicate by stating yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no. That has carried. No public hearings tonight, so we're down to reports. Item 11.1 is consideration of a utility easement with that Black Hills Power Incorporated for an underground utility line and authorizing the mayor or city administrator to execute.
Thank you, Mayor. Evening, Council. Myself, City Administrator Jordan, and Mayor Forrester did meet with Ken Myros from Black Hills Energy last week to look at the placement of an easement. Tonight, we're asking the council to consider the approval of a utility easement with Black Hills Power. This easement would allow them to bury a portion of the overhead line that serves areas south of Interstate 90. As you're all aware, Black Hills Energy has implemented a public safety power shutoff program in western South Dakota. This means that overhead lines that are in high-risk wildfire areas can be proactively de-energized during periods of extreme fire danger. By granting this easement, the city allows Black Hills Power to move that segment underground, which greatly improves system reliability and resilience. It also helps to ensure continuity of power for the residents in this area, businesses, and critical services like traffic signals, water facilities, while potentially removing much of South Sturgis from the future PSP shutoff zone. This easement is limited in scope. The city retains the use of the property surface, and Black Hills Power is responsible for restoring any disturbed areas. There also is no cost to the city, which Ken did share with us. It's about $1 million a mile to bury this line. Currently, everything on the south side of Interstate 90 would be in the power shutoff program, public safety power shutoff program, and everything on this side of the interstate, which they say is the north, would not. So this actually helps to keep everything on the south side of the interstate without having to risk shutting off power should we get into that scenario. Staff does recommend approval and ask that you authorize the mayor or the city administrator to execute this agreement. I'd be happy to answer any of your questions. That map shows everything in the red is what would potentially be shut off. Deb, if you scroll down, you go too fast. Go back up. So the area, everything there in the red would be is in the power, the public safety power shutoff program. Everything that's in the blue is fairly stable. So by burying this line, which starts at the substation by Blucksburg and will go all the way up through into the canyon, but by burying this piece, it stabilizes that whole entire area. So it's a pretty good swath of property. The easement would generally run along the road of Elk and then turn and go west along our property line of the Marcotte property. This would, generally speaking, that's the best place for it. This would be, if we ever did do any kind of development on that property, these would either be rear property lines or front property lines where you have a 25-foot setback anyways. So this seems like this is the logical place for this. It doesn't go the entire length of our west boundary, but it actually ends just short there once you get into the Palisades subdivision where the existing overhead line goes. That's where it would end.
Thank you, Rick. Just to make sure that we say it again and again tonight, we're talking about an easement on the Marcotte property where there's an existing overhead line that diagonals the primary piece.
Correct.
Council have any questions or concerns?
Are we deciding where the easement is going tonight, or are we allowing you and Aaron to discuss that with Black Hills Energy?
I believe what's being proposed is what's on the screen there, which would be along Elk and then along the western property line as shown in that document.
Well, that's the piece that was discussed, but I think
Yeah.
council has the ability through their motion to have action on how they want to make this happen.
Rick, the questions that came to me is, will this easement take out quite a few trees? Is that one of the plans?
I think when we looked at it and we discussed it, I think that there's enough room that we can maneuver in between the trees and it'll be minimal. We may have to remove a tree or two, but for the most part, again, it doesn't go along the whole entire boundary. And what's there, I think there's enough room to work there where we can make a minimum impact. And Mr. Myros, and when we discussed it, he felt
aware.
the same ways.
Yeah. Mr. Mayor, you're in approval with that as well?
Well, I certainly had concern about the trees. There was some questions. I mean, we looked at some aerial photos. I've since visited the site, and there's more trees than the aerial photo gave me the indication that there was. You know, I think Black Hills Energy is a good partner. I guess for me, one question that was not clear was along Elk Road, we've got one piece tall. If I recall correctly, that this utility line was going to need to be about 5 feet deep. So in order to make sure that if we cut back from Elk Road, I mean, it needs to be 12 feet deep when they put it in. Is that agreeable, Ken?
Yeah, we can bore it.
Yeah, please.
My voice doesn't carry it?
Not onto the internet, it won't carry.
I think that's a good thing, personally. So a couple things, yeah. So in some areas that we have to, we will bore it. So we could go 15 feet deep, and that's not an issue. So, as Rick said, this is just one piece. We've already started going from Pleasant Valley. We're going through Pleasant Valley as we speak. Eventually, we'll go through the National Cemetery, across the BLM land, across the Davenport's property. And it's just pieces that are in the open grasslands or those type of areas that we're concerned about. So, common sense. As far as, routes go, we're pretty open about the route as long as it's cost effective.
Mm-hmm.
That was one of my big concerns, was the trees. We had heard a lot,
Right.
or I have heard a lot about.
So, yeah, Jesse, so, yeah, like I said, we don't need a lot of room to go through there, but we needed some room,
Will you be boring it through that tree
No.
area or just along Elk?
just along Elk, just where we have to.
Cody Severson will be trenching that with his excavator. No different. I mean, we just did a similar project with him down in the park, putting in the water line, and again, I mean, it's not a big area. He can work around the trees. He's really trenching in, probably a 3 or a 4 foot, the width of a bucket. So we were able to get through trees in the park. Again, we might have to pile up some dirt around them, but once it's restored, you would never know. We can, if we do end up having to take a tree or two out, we can certainly replace it. That's not a problem either.
Has this route been looked at, where you follow Red Cut and come up over here to minimize the trees and the massive amount of drilling over here?
I mean, again, anytime we go across our property, cutting it in half, no matter what we do in the future, you've put an encumbrance on it. I mean, honestly, running along the borders of it is the absolute best. I mean, that's where you want your easements. That's where you're gonna have your setbacks already. Anyways, again, if that were ever to develop, those would all be front and rear setbacks where you couldn't build anyways. If you cut diagonally across it, where the power line is now, you just create an encumbrance that somebody, whether it's the city, whether it's a developer, whether it's whoever, they have to work around it because it's right through the middle of the property.
Sure, thank you.
Any other comments or discussion? Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second it.
As presented?
Yes.
Is there any further discussion?
Just so I'm clear, I mean, I understand a tree or two or whatever, but for whatever reason, if we got in there and there was more than a couple of trees or whatever, is that on Black Hills Energy to replace, or is that on us?
You know, Cody had called me last week and he wanted to meet, I mean, again, he doesn't want to have to tear out any more trees than he has to because that's more work for him too. So I think that we can find a route within that 25-foot section where we can minimize, you know, the damage and.
But those trees are on our property, right? We're not talking about public.
Absolutely.
Private,
Everything,
we're talking
everything is
public
on our
property.
property.
So
Correct.
it's our trees,
Yes.
right?
You're correct.
And just for clarification, that mean we're gonna be low enough if we need to, I mean, that 7-foot bank along Elk Drive is a snow removal problem.
We have always considered and actually have talked about cutting that bank back and making it more level from the road elevation. If you remember back when that was the game production area, there was a big 6-foot chain link fence there, and when the game fishing parks did away with that, they just cut the posts off. And part of the problem too, to be honest with you, is the power line that was there that kept us from being able to cut that down because there's a pole and guy wires right there. Not saying that we have it planned, but that was always our plan, was to cut that road back. It would help. It drifts terrible bad off of that bank. You know, so again, at some point in time, I think that would makes a lot of sense to cut that and feather it back. That's probably, you know, your most buildable lots that are, you've already got all the utilities in and they would front right off of Elk Road. So again, in the future, if the council decides to do something with that, that makes all the sense in the world. And they did just put a gas line in there as well. And we made sure that they lowered that gas line as deep enough so that we could cut that hill back.
Here, I put up the map so you can actually see trees there.
Where did that map come from?
It's Google Earth.
Sturgis, Google map.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second on the table. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. Those in favor of the easement indicate by stating yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no. That is carried, thank you. Item 11.2, Aaron, we've got a little bit of work, cleanup work from our last meeting.
Yeah, the report I gave you last Monday looked at the equalization certified value that I got from Director Crane, or Rhea Crane. And what it did not include was the auditor's assessment that included all the utilities. And that added about $7 million to it. So the intent, as I heard it last meeting, was we wanted to keep the effective rate this coming year as it was this last year. And what I reported last meeting was it was 0.00413. And that was based on looking at it without the utilities of $757,433,401. When you add in the utility assessment piece of it, that's where it increased it to up to $764,311,678. And so if you look at what we took last year, was the max tax was $3,131,526. So we divide that into 764, it comes up to the 0.00409. Where the report I gave is I divide that into the 757, 433, 401, and that's where the 413 come into play. So if the intent was to keep it 409, keep the effective rate the same, the new value, including utilities, is $7,885,758,292. And to use the 00409, then the tax received in 26, payable in 26 for 2025 would be $3,213,751. So that lowers the overall property tax from, if you stayed at 413 and go to 409, that lowers it by 31,430. So again, again, it's not necessarily a recommendation, it's really what, your decision. As I understood, you guys wanted to maintain the effective rate of 409. If that's the case, then what we'd be collecting in '26 would be 3213,751. Pending your questions.
So rather than keeping the mill levy the same, the mill levy the same, we would actually be reducing the mill levy with 409.
No, the mill levy was 409 for this last year. So
Yeah,
you'd be keeping the
so-
mill levy the same.
Excuse me.
Yep.
Well, since I made the motion last time, my intent for making that motion and keeping it the same remains the same, which is to lessen the tax burden on the residents as much as reasonably possible. So I would make the motion tonight to have the mill levy be at the .00409.
We've got a first by Ruth. I think that's what our motion was last round, was it not?
Yeah, and I think I seconded it last time. So
Yep.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Is there any further discussion?
Could I just ask for some clarification?
Please do, Bonnie, come up to the microphone. I can help just a little bit. Utilities are held separately.
Okay, that was the piece I didn't really understand, was the value of the utilities. And so by going with the .00409, we're bringing in 31,000 less? Is that the conclusion?
That's what's what the report is indicating.
That's 31,000 less
Than last year?
than what they voted on last week.
Oh, then
Last week, they voted on 413, because that's what we thought the mill levy was, based on the equalized value that did not include the utilities. So when you add in the utilities, it lowered it by that $31,430 for collection for 2026.
From the decision we thought we were making last week. So what is it altering it from 2024?
It goes in, this last year, we're at 31,526. It will raise it now to 32,751. So about 80,000 more. Same mill levy, but the value of the equalized value with utilities went up from 764 million to 785 million.
Okay, I'm not seeing the 785 here.
Yeah, correction on that, on the background information, that the fourth paragraph where it starts off with the 4.00413, that last sentence should be, instead of 764, that should be 785. So we'll correct that in the minutes. And that's what would equal the 00409.
Okay, so that's why I was confused, because what I was seeing was not what I was hearing.
Correct.
Okay, so we're actually bringing in more property tax dollars
We are.
for 25 than 24 without raising the mill levy.
That's correct.
So is that because of more properties, more value? What does that mean to the individual?
Well, to an individual, it does raise everybody's taxes a little bit because the assessed value, the equalized value with utilities did go up. Mill levy stays the same, but our collection will increase from what we had this last year.
Some of that would be new properties, correct?
Could be
So-
growth, assessed
some,
value.
and some increased value, I believe.
Yeah,
Okay.
I just saw the number.
Although for somebody who has done the freeze, there would not be an increase?
That's the way I understand
Is that a once and done, or is that an annual application?
Mark says it'll be annual. I'll trust him. You have to change it every
I
year.
believe you have to reapply every year. But you'd want to check on that.
Okay.
And that's available at the treasurer's office.
Okay, I'm still a little bit foggy, but I think I got it now. Thank you.
Thank you, Bonnie. Any other questions? We've had a first by Ruth, a second by Tony to set the mill levy at .00409 based on $785 million of assessed value, including utilities. Those in favor of the motion indicate by stating yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no. All right, that's carried.
Mr. Mayor, may I just add to that, Bonnie's question? According to the application blank from the treasurer's office, the application is due annually, on or before April 1st, so it is an annual application.
Thank you for the clarification. That brings us to item 12, executive session. Eric, do we have a need tonight?
I don't.
All right, so with no need for executive session, that brings us to the end of our meeting. Is there someone willing to move on adjournment?
Motion to approve adjournment.
Second.
First by Tony, second by Alex to adjourn. Those in favor indicate by stating yes.
Yes.
Thank you. What happened? Oh.